Welcome to a brand new episode of Greentech Pulse. I'm sure you've not thought of the waste that is generated when you go to a bar, when you go to a coffee shop, when you go to establishments like this. You have a drink in a cup, and where does that go once you're done? I'm sure you don't really think about that. And today's entrepreneur has thought about that and developed a solution to that. On Green Tech Pulse today, we have Roman. Roman is from Tapster, the founder and CEO of Tapster. And I won't let the bag out. I'll let him let the bag out. So welcome to Green Tech Pulse, Roman.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Appreciate being here.
Thank you so much. So can you share with us your journey? How did you get? Because I would never have thought of something like this. How did you get to this point, starting this Tapster?
Yeah, this is it's a good question. I definitely did not plan this out. This was not the big plan. So I was in advertising for years. So I lived in San Francisco after college, and I was in advertising agencies and then ad tech for years, and just didn't feel like that was where I wanted to be. So I actually decided to take a year off of my life and travel. So in 2014, I traveled all of South America, all of Europe, a little of Africa, and then I drove the entire US. And I was kind of, on my journeys, I saw so many different people, so many different things. And in terms of the green space, I saw a lot of interesting composting and recycling in Europe specifically, like in France. It's just common. Everybody does it. Even in South America, in Argentina and Brazil, they're very into it. So I've always had that mentality myself too. I'm somewhat of a I love the earth. I want to make sure that it's preserved as long as possible and kept as beautiful as possible. So I've always been somebody who recycles and composts myself. But I thought, can I get into a business that I can utilize that too and take advantage of that? So when I was driving around the US at the end of my trip, I had a lot of friends taking me to their favorite bars and restaurants. And, everybody wanted to show off the cool new place in their neighborhood. And so I got in my head, hey, I could do something like this, but a little more fun and interactive. And I'd been to a bar in Chicago that had self pour taps like you see over my shoulder. And it was just something I thought could be out there in a bigger way. These were taps at tables. So if you were sitting at a booth, there was taps. You could give your credit card to the server and pour whatever you wanted. I wanted to create this. So I went to the company who was doing the technology. It's called Pour My Beer, and met with the founder, Josh Goodman, and we hit it off. And I started working for that company. And in the same time, building my business plan to open up the first Tapster location in Chicago, which opened in 2017. And never did I think it would bring me to six locations, 7 years later. And it's been a wild, wild ride, but always with the mindset of wanting to create something for people to come together as a community and meet other people, like-minded people or different people, and then sample a bunch of different drinks and offerings that we can put out there for them. And it's not just beer or wine. It's beer, wine, cider, cocktails on draft. We have mocktails, kombucha, which I drink a lot of. We have cold brew coffee and non-alcoholic beer. So just a lot of things for everybody to sample and feel part of this community. So that's been basically my journey, and a fun one to date. And now really focused myself on franchising this concept. So I have two franchisees right now, one in Cleveland and one in Lexington, Kentucky that just opened. So really going in that direction moving forward. So opening it up to help other people do this concept and help them, which has been a really fun new process. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. So the biggest issue in bars and restaurants that I see is inability to get drinks in your guests' hands, right? So you've got a bar full of people, you want them to experience what you're selling, and you can't get it out there fast enough. There's a line at the bar, there's too many tables for a server to get to. For us, everybody goes up to the taps themselves. so they can try things at their own pace. They don't have to wait. And there's just a faster and easier throughput model. So that's really what I think we solve the most as a business case is the ability to serve 30, 40 people at the same time. Versus if you have bartenders or servers, you can't put 30 out there at the same time serving drinks at the same time. So that's really what we offer is no wait times and an ability for our guests to try little samples. So you try 2 ounces of this, 3 ounces of that, see what you like, and then you can pour a full glass. So that's really a big thing. I'd say in terms of the kind of green space, we really solve an issue of garbage and lowering our carbon footprint and waste because we don't have any bottles or cans. We don't sell, beer out of bottles. We don't sell stuff like that. So all that we're doing is selling we're giving you a glass that you grab. You can see them up here. Sorry, in my hand. You can see the glasses are all up here. So when you come in, you get see if I have one. Yeah. So when you come in, you grab a tap card here, and that's an RFID card that is connected to your credit or debit card. When you're ready, you go up to these screens, you tap the card where you want to try something, and then as you pour it, charges by the ounce. So it's a really fun way for our guests to feel like they're in control and they're trying things at their pace. And in all honesty, I'm a very impatient person. So I think it really solved somewhat of my own, griefs, but it's been fun to see people enjoy it. And in terms of the waste, it's not only something that's important to me philosophically that we don't create a lot of waste in this world, a lot of which doesn't go away, that is stuck in the ground and it stays there for a long time. But I think as a business case, you can argue that it's much more efficient too because we have less garbage. We don't dispose as much, so our garbage cost, our waste cost is lower than a regular bar too. So it's really a good model on both sides, business case and philosophical case. And again, I know I mentioned, but I have our beer lines, our taps get cleaned every week. So you'll notice we have Nate in the background here cleaning. So we do that every week. So yeah, just not a fake background. Yes. Yeah.
That's in impatience trait is common. I think I have that too, and I think I like the idea of selling per ounce because a lot of the time you might get maybe a 50 cl bottle of something and then you drink to a point and either you don't really like it or you're full and then you have to throw away the rest because you can't really keep it. And so I think that's one really great problem it solves. But do you have any numbers on the amount of waste? I know you've eliminated cans, eliminated bottles, eliminated a lot of plastic. So are there any numbers on probably the average amount of waste that is avoided by a Tapster
Yeah,
location?
I don't have exact numbers, but I know that we're at least 20% less. I've had studies from Pour My Beer, which is our kind of the company we use for tech, and we're 20% at the least less waste. I would argue it's a lot more, but that's a conservative number. So it's nice to know that we're noticeably less waste than most places. And I would argue it can get up to 50% less just because there's no waste here. We really don't do kitchens either, so there's not a lot of food. We partner with other places, let them people bring in their own food. So we're not really creating any of that waste either. So it's really a good model in terms of this. And it's funny, I don't talk about this enough because I'm so excited about the self pour and hey, try this new concept and this is you're gonna like it. It's a fun way to drink. But it really is an important thing to highlight is the fact that we are not creating much waste at all, and that we're a good model for sustainability and just, you know, green business.
And I think you mentioned earlier too that the kegs where the drinks are stored in are reusable. So that's another thing. You use them, you clean them up, and use them again. And
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So all of our cocktails we make and put in kegs ourselves. So and mocktails. So we're reusing those all the time, sanitizing in between. But all the kegs that we buy from distributors and brewers, they collect them after we finish too. So everything is collected and then reused by the brewers too. So it's really like a full service kind of operation where everything is reused. And if there's a keg here or there that's plastic, that's all recyclable too. So we put that in the recycling.
Amazing. So now this the self pour concept is a new concept, and with new concepts, you might have some challenges getting it out to people, making people accept it. But I can see that you've gotten over those challenges because like you said, you have multiple locations, you have two franchises already. So, what were the challenges you had getting this concept out, and how did you overcome them?
That's a great question. I think the biggest challenge I had was just that it was something new, right? Just this is such an old industry. I mean, bars and taverns have been around for thousands of years, right? That it literally have been around for at least 1,000 years. So it's always been walk in, greet somebody, have them pour your drink. So changing something is always really hard. So I think initially the pushback and the kind of hurdle was, well, nobody's going to go do that. Like, why would they want to go pour themselves? So I'm not going to go out and do work. Uh, that was a big one. But I think also the other hurdle was people like to go out by themselves sometimes. And if you go to a regular bar or restaurant, you can sit at the bar yourself and you can talk to the bartender. You can do that. People were saying, well, nobody's going to go by themselves because there's no bar. The bar is right here. So my argument and what I've seen in person, which is really inspiring, is that we do get a lot of people that come by themselves. There's a lot of seats here that are communal. That's a big push for me, is having people be able to sit and talk to other people, and it create inviting space for that. But also, if you want to talk to somebody and you're by yourself, all you have to do is just stand up by the taps, take a look at what's on tap, and everybody needs to come up there. So you're kind of in the focal point of the entire bar if you're standing at the tap. So it's a really easy place to meet people if you're by yourself. I actually think it's the easiest place because it gives you something to talk about right off the bat. Hey, what are you drinking? Did you try this? What do you think about these taps? So I think that was one of the biggest hurdles was, you know, a new concept, obviously, and then people coming in by themselves. Those were the two big ones. And luckily, as we've grown, people realized, hey, no, this is a cool place to come in by yourself and just try different stuff. And I think it's nice to have your own pace while you're hanging out or trying things versus, you have a server constantly coming over, asking you when you're ready for your next one, or never coming over and you're ready for your next one and they're never there. So it's nice to have your own pace, and I've noticed people really feel that empowerment of, hey, I can run my own show here and feel comfortable trying whatever and how much of what I want.
All right. So I think starting businesses, I've done a lot of that. Most of the time, when you start, you notice or you experience at a point something which you never expected or you never planned for, or maybe pleasantly surprised you too in the building of the business. So you've been doing this for a couple of years, I believe, if I remember, since 2017. So what was something unexpected you encountered building Tapstar?
I love this question. I don't get it enough, but it's a great question and I have an amazing amazing answer. So in our first location, and almost in every location now, every location that's happened, in the first one it was the most prevalent. After a few months of opening, we had a couple guests who came in who were deaf. So they couldn't hear. There was a lot of sign language. I didn't realize that our system is perfect for somebody who's deaf because they don't need to speak to a bartender. They don't need to go up and try to talk to anybody. That's all at their own pace. So that was one of the things. It was really mind blowing when they came in, and then all of a sudden we had a crew of 10 to 15 deaf folks who were coming in who literally it was amazing. They were there all the time, and it made me so happy that they felt comfortable in this place that they could do. And so that was the most surprising and unusual result of doing self pour is realizing, hey, this is a place where people can come and if they have a disability, they can't hear well. It doesn't matter. They can do their own pace. They can still try things. And each of the screens up here, you can touch and learn about things. So, they can go through the whole experience on their own. And it was inspiring, man. It was cool to see that and realize, hey, we actually have a community that can enjoy this. That maybe at a loud and obnoxious bar, it's a lot harder for somebody to do that.
I think that's actually very lovely, and it's something I enjoy about starting businesses or being in business because every day is like you're discovering new things. Every day you wake up, you're discovering. It's just like you're on a constant adventure, and it just makes
It's
up
true.
for the bad days.
Yeah, you know that, and it does help, and that is the fuel, though. That's what keeps you going when 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 inspiring things happen with business. It really balances out the tougher times. Yeah, I think we do have a crowd that comes in because they realize, and the younger generations, so Gen Z specifically, I think they really understand sustainability is important. And so they see us as a nice option. I mean, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna pretend that they don't just enjoy doing self pour, of course. But I think there is a certain aspect that they understand this is a really sustainable business. This is great. I don't see any waste in here. I don't see anybody throwing cans or garbage around. Like there's just not much, especially from the staff. We don't do that. And I think one of the biggest reasons I did that, and it's an unfortunate reason, is I've heard and read that a lot of stuff you put in the recycling bin actually doesn't get recycled. And I don't know if that's everywhere in the world, but I know in the US, unfortunately, that happens. And so I thought in my mind, okay, great, I can push my team to say, recycle everything, split this up, split that up. But in the end, a lot of it's not getting recycled. And it's a bummer. So if you can just avoid even doing that, even creating any waste, I feel like it's a bigger win. And that was a big motivation for me in doing this.
Amazing. And I think that recycling issue, I had a guest, I think earlier this week, talk about that same thing that most of the things that we recycle, we put the cans here and the bottles here and this here, everything just goes into landfill. Most of it goes into landfill.
It's a bummer, but you're right, and it's disillusioning. You're hoping to do all this good stuff. You take your time, you're spreading this out, and it doesn't really happen that way. So it's definitely a bummer.
So now for the producers of the drinks, of the coffee, the wines, the beers and co you sell, how do you select the producers for each of them?
Yeah. So in each market, so we're in Chicago, Seattle, Bellevue, Cleveland, Philadelphia, and Lexington. Each of those markets, I want it to be at least 60% local, right? So the idea of Tapster is if you find one in your city, it's a good place to go and try local drinks. And so 60% is always local. And then from that, we're really trying to find out the best quality in your market. So it's not just let's put on everything that's local. It's let's narrow down to the local and then find the best quality. So it comes through a variety of ways. So we're tasting things ourselves, right? So everything from wine to kombucha to beer. We do sampling each week with our distributors and our local distributors, as well as our local just beer producers who self distribute. And then there's a lot of different rating sites. So almost like Yelp or Google reviews, they have those for beer and for other drinks. So you can kind of get a roundabout, you know, scoring system of who the best is. So, and then after that 60% of local, we really want to kind of promote anything around the world that's good. So there's beers from Belgium in here. There's wines from Chile in here. Let's find all the best from around the world too. But I think really my mission is if you see a Tapster, you can go there and try a bunch of different local drinks. That's really my goal with this entire thing is to get this out across the country and have it be a great community hub for you to try to meet people first, and then also try local drinks that are great.
Wow, and I think having that 60% local drinks in every location is a great way to encourage local businesses. So now the local businesses, local beverage makers you patronize in your locations, what feedback have you received from them on being featured in your different cities where you are?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts. So when we have, brewers or distillers come in the bar, which they do in every city because they enjoy seeing their products on tap, but also because it's just a fun environment for them to try other things that they are not able to try, at one location to try all this different breadth of drinks. They've been really really happy and proud to see their products on there and watching people interact with them. Watch in real time people deciding between all these things on tap and picking theirs. It's a source of pride for them. But we also highlight one beer a month, that we put on tap all month long, and we call it our beer of the month. And so that brewer will come in one day a month and speak to guests, hand out free samples, maybe hand out some shirts or something like that. And it's a really good way to introduce my guests to the actual people making the drinks, which I think is a really fun aspect of what we do, is trying to connect people and bring them together here in like a lighthearted kind of environment where it's fun. But it's interesting that I was never in the beer or drinks community before this, and I didn't really think about what they were like. But but they're such good people. They're such nice people, and there's so much passion around what they're doing that they understand what they're basically making a drink that somebody's going to enjoy, that somebody's going to feel good after they have it. They're going to relax from their day. They might have had stress in their day or in their life. They have this drink, and it's a source of relaxing and happiness. And I think that the brewers really take a lot of pride in that. That they're changing the world and making people happy is a really really important thing. And all of our brewers are using kegs and they're reusing them, so they're really operating on a very sustainable model themselves. So I think everybody in the industry really respects the green space and taking care of it.
Yeah, and I think another effect on that green, on that sustainability angle with using local producers, especially more than half of them being local, is avoiding the impacts of long green transports, taking drinks across the country, across the world, and everything. That is just 40% that is doing that, and 60% is just short journeys.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to look at it. I didn't think about that as much. Yeah, I mean, you're right. You got 40% coming from Belgium or whatever. It's not ideal, but the local aspect is really. I didn't think about the journey that the drink has to take from the brewer to us, and how much is that creating? How much waste is that creating? So yeah, with a higher percentage of local, it makes it better. Smaller trucks even when it's a local distributor, when it's a local brewer, it's a smaller truck. It's not this huge behemoth of a truck coming around. So I think that helps as well. That's a smart insight.
Exactly. So now especially since you're franchising, you're growing into multiple locations, since you have 60% of the drinks coming from each location, from the vicinity of each location, how do you balance featuring those local products with maintaining consistency? Because maybe some people might become addicted to Tapstar and they want to try Tapstar everywhere they go. So how do you manage consistency when they try exploring all the Tapstars around?
That's a good. I like that point of view. I think I think if the type of people that would be very into Tapster and coming here and wanting to seek it out in different markets, which we have, a lot of times I'll be in Philadelphia at this location and somebody comes in and says, I was just in Seattle. I loved it. I wanted to come here and check it out. And that makes me super happy. I think what that crowd really likes is the environment. It's very relaxed. It's very welcoming. My team is not trying to act too cool. We're not trying to stand back here and look at you and judge you and, nothing like that. Everybody gets treated the same, and everybody gets treated like you're in our house. Like we're having a house party. We're taking care of you. We're showing you around. We're not just giving you a card and having you go to the taps. We're walking up there with you. We're showing you how to work it. We're showing you how to pour a good pint, as well as describing what's on tap. So I think that added touch is what really keeps people coming back. It's not just the ability to try a bunch of different drinks, which I know that people love. So if you've been in Seattle, you try a bunch of great local beers. Seattle has an amazing beer market. And then if you come to Philadelphia or Chicago, hey, I know I can go do that there. So let's go experience and kind of explore there, because I want people to get to the point where they trust Tapster. They trust that we're going to put good things on tap, that it's not going to be a bunch of, random big names that they've seen everywhere else. It's going to be stuff that you've never heard of, that you might never even imagined. So, I think we have a strawberry shortbread beer on right now. We've had a dill pickle beer before. Things that you would never imagine, and then you have it on tap, and it's and the beauty is I wouldn't necessarily try a full pint of those beers, right? That seems like a lot. But in this model, it's perfect for it because you're going to always try just a little, because it's too interesting. It's too random not to try it. You got to try it. So that's the fun part. And I guess I didn't bring up before, but because of the model that people can just sample things, try as they go versus ordering a full pint of something, we don't waste any kegs. We don't ever take a keg off that has beer or anything in it still. Everything is finished. And that's a good testament to the business model that people are enjoying our methodology and what we're putting on tap. Everything's selling. But I think it's just people are always open to trying new things. And I think that's really the crowd that comes to Tapster is they want to try something different. They want to try something new. And we make that so easy and accessible here that it's hard not to come and try it. And I think that's something I'm very proud of, and that I'm excited to bring to franchisees, to have other people create this in their market. So I want people who are proud of where they live, who love where they live, and want to bring people together in a cool environment where they can highlight all the best beer and wine and kombucha and everything in their market. So the fun part of the franchisee journey for me is meeting people who love where they live, because I've always enjoyed living everywhere I've lived. And I take pride in the places I've been. And I want to, you want to support local. I think a lot of people, and not just in the United States, but I think in the world, people always want to support their local businesses. They want to support their local craftsmen. And so we give them that ability here. And I think people enjoy that. I really do. And I want them to. So long-winded answer, but good question.
Yeah, I really love that too. So now for Tapstar, what should we be expecting next, especially in terms of sustainability, especially in terms of, I think you mentioned the deaf community really tuning into it, so maybe better supporting them and things like that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think reaching out to other communities like that, I think in every market, just letting the deaf community understand that we're here and that we're a good place for you to come and enjoy and not feel pressure and feel safe, I think is an important thing. In terms of sustainability, I think continuing to focus on only using glassware and not using any plastic, not using any bottles or cans. Because, like we said, bottles and cans, they sound recyclable, but a lot of them aren't. So, making sure that we stay true to that core kind of pillar and methodology of just using glassware uh, to recycle that, and all the kegs are recycling, and just continuing to find local brewers and distillers and kombucha folks who are making great local spirits, local drinks, beers, ciders, to get that out in the market. And a lot of the people that we work with are very sustainable minded. So focusing on the brewers that are doing that as one of their core values, I think is very important for us. So pushing that ahead. And then in terms of the future of Tapster, we are looking to open locations. I have franchisees signed in Denver as well as Long Island. So those will be the two next locations, which is very exciting. And a space coming in Baltimore as well, which will be a lot of fun. And we're really looking to expand the franchise side of the business. So what I've learned on my time at Tapster and opening this in different locations, I want to bring to other people and let them enjoy this process and be there with them on the journey to really bring this to their communities. So really expanding this brand as much as possible in the United States and then hopefully globally. So, hopefully in Nigeria sometime you can walk down the street and walk into a Tapster and try something.
Amazing. So for other entrepreneurs in especially in the hospitality space, what advice can you give, especially for the ones who are looking to reduce their environmental impacts, reduce their waste, and be more sustainable generally? What advice can you give them?
I think the advice I would give is relevant to what you and I discussed earlier, which is even if you recycle and you spread things, you space things out and you say, okay, I'm going to put all the bottles and cans in here. I'm going to clean things out. I'm going to put them in recycling. A lot of that doesn't get recycled. Keep that in mind when you're creating your business because as hard as you want to, a lot of things aren't going to be recyclable. So I think compostable and compostability is really important. And you talked about that earlier. And I really think it's important. People focused on using utensils or bins that are compostable versus recyclable because no matter what, a lot of it's going to end up in the garbage. So if it can just disintegrate, if it can compost, that's a much better angle than saying, well, we recycle everything. Well, okay, but do you know that they're recycling it once it gets down the line? And so I think focusing on compostability is really, really key. And that's everything from your waste, using if you're a restaurant, you have more food. So using the waste that you've created in a compost bin and then composting that, or just all the containers you have being compostable. And, outside of that, just use things you can reuse, so use things, glassware, glass plates. A lot of restaurants already do this. So it's good to be able to say, hey, we're going to reuse everything here and it's not going to create any garbage. I think it's much better that way. But composting food isn't a really important thing as well.
Amazing. So I think I like that advice because it's just rather than depend on maybe the person that takes trash or whatever to handle that part for you, take charge of it and do your recycling yourself to make sure that it was done. At least you saw whatever waste you had composted right in front of you. So you know it happened and you're not just hoping that it happened.
Exactly.
Exactly. So now, for listeners who have been waiting for this, they have listened, they've seen the taps behind you, and they want to try out Tapstar. Where can they learn more about Tapstar? With how to find the branches and more about what you're doing
Sure.
generally?
No, I appreciate it. So the website's tapstertastingroom.com. And then on Instagram, it's at Tapster Tasting Room, or any of our locations has a Tapster handle. So at Tapster Seattle, at Tapster Chicago, at Tapster Philly. You can go to all of those and check those out. So please do. There's a lot of updates, especially on Instagram, but on the websites, you can find a ton of information as well as about franchising. And yeah, I really appreciate the time. This has been a fun podcast.
Thank you so much. So tapstartastingroom.com, Tapstar Tasting Room on Instagram. Go there if you want to franchise, you want to try it out, you want to learn more about them, anything, just go on Tapstar Tasting Room to be in the show notes and on the screen for those watching on video. So thank you so much, Roman, for coming on Greentech Pulse today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And for the listeners, I hope you had as much fun as I did doing this interview. If you know anyone else who enjoy listening to this or who would probably want to explore Tapster, share this episode with them. If not, till next week, expect a fun episode. So till then, bye for now.